Right, I'm going to do a bit of a, not necessarily an edit, but I think I've made some relatively good footage on this, and I wanted to introduce a bit more about what I've done beforehand. So I'm going to do two videos, which is why you see in the beginning of the video this shirt, and at the end the same shirt. But I took on the Discovery. I decided to have a go at doing the timing belt on it. I decided to think, well, what can I do? I'm not mechanically trained at all. I've learned a lot of the stuff myself, and decided that what I'd do is I'd take the timing belt on this and have a look and see if it needed to be done, and then try and tackle the job. Thanks to YouTube and everything, that gave me the courage to actually go and actually have a crack at it. So I want to thank everybody who's recorded any footage ever on YouTube for cars, because it certainly helps me, and that's the way I learn, is I can watch and see someone do something to know what I need to do myself. So this video that you're about to watch will be me talking you through bits of the Discovery. I'm not going to give step-by-step guides, because I didn't feel that confident in doing it, but hopefully you'll enjoy the content. Right, so I've got some Land Rover updates for you this time. You may, or you won't have a clue when I'm recording, when I'm not, but I started some work on the Fiesta yesterday, and got to a point where I've sprayed it, so I'm leaving it for a bit, and the jobs left to get it for its MOT are relatively straightforward jobs I can do when it's a bit rainy or whatever. And what I've got a mild morning this morning, my other job to tackle was on the Discovery. Now I wanted to, you may have just caught a glimpse there, there's a fan. When I took it through its MOT, I mean, the main reason for the MOT was get it through, see if there's anything that it fails on, and then tackle those bits. Then start to look at some service items. So I thought, well, let's have a dig and find around the cam belt or the timing belt situation. I didn't have any evidence of any servicing when it was done. Obviously the car is 150,000 miles nearly, so it must have been done over time. And there are things, you can't get a car to that mileage without it having service history. I just haven't got any documents of it. So I thought, well, let's have a little dig and have a little play and see if I can find the belt and just see what condition it's in. Like when you're working on like the Fiesta, I did the Punto. We did the timing belt on the Punto. The Jag we didn't bother because it's a chain. But when you get to those cars, you just cut the bolts, take a cover off or peel a cover back, and you can get a general feel from the type of belt. It's not always easy to see until you get underside of the belt, but let's have a look at the belt. Easier said than done. To get to the timing belt on this, you've basically got to get to a situation where you're changing it anyway. You can't, well, you may be able to, there may be someone who can tell me how to actually inspect this without taking the whole car to pieces, which is what I've done. So I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow on how I am going to change this. There's a few videos online, not many actually. There's a couple of people online that have given instructions of how to get to the timing belt and to the cover, and also how to get it timed. So I just thought I'd give you this one as a bit of an update of what I've been doing, and then I'll show you some of the tips and hints that I would recommend that you look at to help you to get this off yourselves. And yeah, let me know what you think about my condition of my timing belt. Should I change it? Should I not? It's quite obvious really. So the first thing I'd say that I'd recommend you do is when it comes to this fan, there's a couple of things on there. Some people are getting specialist tools and doing all sorts of stuff. I actually have got it's not to hand, I put it back in the garage because it started raining earlier. I have got one of those straps for an oil filter. I put that on there and just had a pair of mole grips on the bigger setting. Everyone said it's the opposite thread. It loosens to the right. Righty-tighty, except for in this case. So that one is an opposite thread, just be careful. And that was it really, that was quite straightforward to get off. I can't really show you any of the other tips without showing you the state of the cam belt. So what do you reckon? Does that need changing or what? I can't believe I've got away with this. Now I can't see if that's, yeah, it does look like it's cracked. You can see on there it's cracking, but it's also been nibbling away at the edges. So I suspected I needed to change the pulleys, so I bought the tensioners even. I bought the tensioners, but I can't even see it with my gloves on. But is that? Oh, that tensioner's actually got damage to it. So I don't know what's caused what, whether it's the tensioner that's caused damage to the belt, or the belt that's caused damage to the tensioner, or the pulley. They're the idler pulleys, I think they're called. You can see it's really close to the edge. Really close to the edge. There's little timing holes, look. So that is absolutely shaggered, and it definitely needs replacing. So while it was a preventative measure to have a look at it, yeah, it's got to be changed. So I'm kind of glad I've got in this deep and not found a brand new belt. The belt on the front of the engine is a bit easier to see. So that's worn. I don't know if you can make it out there. So it's worn, it's got a few cracks. I don't think that would have given me any problems sort of in the next 5,000 miles, 12 months, whatever. But because you've got to get that off anyway, it's getting replaced. What else have I found? So other tips, so you've got to get the fan off. I also found that there are some sneaky little bolts inside of the cam belt cover, or the time belt cover. There's 1 and 2 and 3. And I wasn't too sure about getting the wheel off on the front. I did take the six bolts off. So that's not easy, not ideal. But if you take, when I started undoing that one, the wheel fell off anyway. So I don't know if the socket, the screwdriver was pushing back on that one. But yeah, I loosened the 6 on the front of there, the 6 on the wheel. Then when I did that one, that wheel fell off. It's actually still under the car. I haven't removed it. I also think that on this side here, like this side was causing me some grief getting it off. But when I was spinning the pump, that's another thing that's really frustrating on this. It's not even going to just be this. The water pump itself is foobarred. I don't know if you can hear. As I take this out, you can hear a. It's hard to do with one hand. I'll get my tripod out and show you the state of these. But that came out. It is only 3 bolts, and it just pulls out. So I don't even think there's a gasket on there. I think it's a flush fit. So I'm going to put a new one of those in and just give a bit of light sandpaper on the outside there to try and get a nice seal, get rid of some of the rust that's built up over time. What else can I tell you? I mean, even these, look at the state. All of that muck. That's all come off the belt. It's a ticking time bomb. Yeah, I'm not sure yet whether to. Some people are marking this to make sure that this doesn't move. Obviously the videos I've read, it's a complete ball ache to try and remove the bits you need to remove to get the alternator. I think it's the alternator and the starter out of the way. Look, is that bits of belt or bits of plastic? I'm really not sure here. I'm not sure what's caused what, whether something's caused the belt to go in this way or whether the belt's caused the other damages. I'm definitely going to have a good old look round as I'm going through this, because last thing I want to do is put it on and it will happen again. Right. Oh, bless me. Yeah, I've also got a bit of an oil leak, or a bit of an oil build-up here. Maybe that's contributing. I don't know, but there's a video. That guy at our time has changed the oil seals that are behind here. So when I've timed this up, I might remove this and have a look behind there, because it looks like that side's wet, or there's another oil build-up on this side. This side looks relatively clean. But bearing in mind that they're quite cheap, I might buy 2, and then if I see that's spinning okay, it's spinning nicely. Yeah, that's spinning freely there. So it might be a case of, if I'm going to replace that one, I might as well replace the other one as well. I don't think that there's a lot of difficulty in fitting them other than getting them a nice seal when you put them back in again. Right, what else was I going to say? Hints and tips taking this off. There's not really, other than to follow the videos that are there and take your time on it. It is a case of perseverance. If you haven't got a lot of mechanical knowledge, I wouldn't do this job. That over years and years I've learned different size sockets, different size spanners, and different size things will help you to get these jobs done. So I wouldn't just start it without having a real good understanding of what you're doing anyway. Another recommendation, I put this as an old boot floor I managed to set a fire to it when I was welding. So this is an old boot floor out of a Clio, which I just put in front of the radiator to give me a bit of protection. Yeah, other than that, I think I'm not gonna blow by blow tell you what to do. Oh, this one was a pain. when you take the pipe off, there's a little metal clip that holds it in, and because it's brittle, sort of, well, it can go brittle, this plastic, I was a bit wary of it, but it does need a bit of encouragement to come off, and once the metal clip's out of the way, so that one is on there, and yeah, I'll report back when I've finished the job. Right, so I'm not reporting back when I've finished the job on the Discovery. I thought I'd just share a few frustrations and hints and tips as I'm learning about them. I was having a laugh as well with a bloke in the parts shop about all the things that go wrong and how they're funny on YouTube. Obviously, I'm not making funny videos, but I think sharing the actual grim reality of what I've been up to. I enjoy it. Some other people won't enjoy it, but yeah, it's fun. My welding skills are not good, and I'm actually going to share some this time. What you might see on, I'm nodding over there, you can't see it off camera, the Fiesta that I did my welding on just did a lot of grinding. My grinding skills are better than my welding skills, but I'll show you what I've made in a minute. So we're back under the, I'll show you back on the other side of the Discovery. So where I've got to now is, the belt's off. The belt is definitely knackered. It is, when I was over here, you can't see it now, I've given it a clean, but I've taken this bracket off, which holds the shaft on. Don't worry, this is aligned on the back of this. There's a little tooth, so that can only go in, as you might be able to hear. It can only go in up there, and then it moves. It doesn't move, and back out again. It wibbles round. So there's only one way that can go in. So as far as keeping your timing all in order, that's your timing hole. So the pin can only go into one part of the block. I've also got to be careful that I don't want to over rotate that more than, it just needs to stay roughly where it is. Forwards and backwards, sort of 30-40 degrees or something is going to be fine either way, and I can get it timed back up again. Same on the other side. There was a lot more grease or oil out of here. I'm hoping that it is from the seal bearing, or the seal behind here, which I'll show you. So the seal behind here is known to leak, and because it's only like a few quid for the part, or I think it's only a few quid for the part, I thought I might as well change it, because I really don't want to get in this deep to the engine again, ever, in my ownership. And if it's that seal, then it's good. So that's the seal that's missing from behind there. Like I said, that's the little notch there, so you can't go wrong. You can make that out. Yeah, try and zoom it in a little bit. So that's the little notch. Can't go wrong. Yeah, so I'm going to put a new seal in there, and hopefully any oil that was coming out is from there. It may well have been coming from the rocker cover as well. It might have been spreading up, because there's a bit of black line there, and as I've cleaned it with the brake cleaner, it's coming off. So it might be that there's a bit of oil seeping out of here as well, but hopefully, if there is, it's a touch of oil. Over to the other side then, so I'll show you my tool that I built in action. And here you go, look, there's the quality of the welding that I've done. All I've done is taken a bit of a plate, and that plate's what I've been using for body repairs. It's not exactly thick gauge material, but it's not particularly fancy. It's a bit rough around the edges, it's a bit sharp, but I'm using my gloves. It's sensible to use my gloves anyway when I'm doing this sort of job. I made the tool with a bit of length on it. It comes up to sort of up to there, look, so it's not a short piece of metal. But what I found the first time I attempted to use it, I used the same bolts to bolt the tool to the wheel, but it was twisting sort of midway, sort of about there. It's twisting because obviously it's not thick gauge. So then you might recognise this. That is a tool that you can get for. There's a bit of wear there now, look, only a tiny bit. That is a tool for laminate floor, and it's got a little hook on that end. So I've cut the hook off, welded it on. You can see the quality of my welding isn't great, but I really wasn't trying, just wanted to get it on there solid. It's given me the strength I needed, because now, where are we? Yeah, we can see I've managed to get that bolt off, so that will come out now as well. In fact, while we're doing it on camera for the first time, so I can do this with one hand. So that's the big bolt coming out. And maybe this is the first time this has been off the car since it was manufactured, but let's have a look behind here. Yeah, just double check on there. So you got a notch, again a little tooth there, and that goes onto that upright piece there. Now looking at that does look a little bit, well, I can see better through the camera lens than I can looking at it with my naked eye. But it does look a bit damp down there, and that certainly looks, yeah, it's due for changing. So the tool has done its job, which is good. I bought myself a set of picks as well. I've never used a set of picks. They were just like £6 or something off of eBay. But then I've gone to fit my, let's take my glove off. Gone to fit my, so that's the seal from the other side. Gone to fit my seal, and it is way too big. That is much too big. So now I've got a problem because I've got all the way down this far. I'm waiting for 2 seals. I'm not even looked to see where I can get them from and how much they'll cost. So yeah, unfortunately I can't put the seals on today, but I will continue. What else have I been up to in here? I don't think as much has gone on since the last time I did a video. Yeah, there's a bit of clean up in there still to do, and the other pulleys and stuff to do. I need to remember to do a side by side to show you the pulleys and the condition of the ones I've taken off versus what I'm putting on. Other than that, I'm going to pack away for tonight and go and get some seals. Right, so we've got some new seals. I've replaced that one already. Not tightened this up yet. But if you're getting onto those seals, they are, again, when you use a pick to get them out, and they pushed on. I've got a, what is it, 32 mm socket that goes straight over the seal, but they're push fit. It's a Christian from LR time. He's said 1mm under, but you can tell that is sufficiently in. And I've done that just by pushing with my hand. I didn't have to tap it or anything. So that's the good news on that piece. I'm not going to talk you through step by step rebuilding it all. Just pointing out anything in particular that is going to help if you want to tackle it yourself. Getting these off is probably the hardest thing I've done on any car for a while. Just using that tool to try and make sure the leverage is on there. So it's just a reverse to put it back on again. Just need to be mindful that I've got, obviously there's a hole there, which is for the timing, and on that one, same again, you've got a timing thing there. That is too far. That's sitting, that timing locks down here. So I need to make sure I rotate that back round again. I don't want to over rotate the cams, and same one here. I don't want to over rotate it. Oh. Happens to be that I've also got the game on here, 1 each, half time, happy days, come on England. Right, so we're back onto the Discovery, back onto it. It's all going to be one video, isn't it? So yeah, I've got the seals back in. I showed that, the seals back in. That was really difficult. I ended up using the 18mm socket and tighten them up. It just felt like it was just so tight. But obviously watching the videos, it's Christian. I'm going to show you up specifically. 80 Newton meters plus 90 degrees times 2 to tighten them up. It just felt like I was about to break something. I did on one side, I think it was probably 90 plus 45, and on the right hand bank, as I'm looking at it, it's a passenger side in the UK. That side probably was 90 times 2, but it just, I didn't want to tighten it any more than that, but maybe that is the right thing to do. I thought I'd quickly show you though the bearings and things that I'm taking off. So another great thing from YouTube. Here's the new, I think it's the Guide or the Idler, and these are Britpart ones that I've got here. I wasn't sure whether to replace all of it, so I thought while I'm in here I may as well do all of it, and it's going to be really difficult for me to pick this up, I'm sure, but this is the old one which has got marks all around it. I don't know if you can hear this on the mic or not, but that doesn't really, it doesn't sound much when you're spinning it, but if you shake it, I don't think you can hear it, but it sounds like there's something inside it. So when you get the new one and do the same shake test, it's silent, absolutely silent. So that could be the same. Same with this one. That's the second pulley, so I've got two have come off. So the second one, spin it, it doesn't sound too shocking, but then when you shake it, shake test, shake them back, no good. So again, you go out, that's no good. So, no good? They can't be any good because that one doesn't make any noise. what I generally found is if it's moving around and it's making noise, then it can't be a good thing. Then we've got the tensioner. I think I made a mistake on this because I think I tried to slacken the tensioner off using the Allen key bolt before loosening the nut, which won't work. So I don't know whether that was kaput or whether it wasn't. I don't think it was helping the situation. If you listen to this again, I'm not sure whereabouts the camera will be on this, but that is definitely not sounding smooth. Then on the new one, that's my fingers is the bit that you can hear. So I would imagine that's going to help the situation. So that's all the ones that are going onto the timing belt, and I'll show you the other ones when I'm getting onto those as well. Right, I'm in here. You can see my Allen key hole for the tensioner is a bit rounder than it should be. I'm overly critical and overly anal on this. I've adjusted and adjusted. I think you can see that looks to bang on square. Just walking through these other bits. So I did the trick of sticking a 5.5mm socket just under there, which let me hold the belt in place, and the belt come up here around this pulley or idler, and that was bolted in. Moved that all the way to the right and tried to get it as tight as I could onto the top of there. Came under here. I thought that was that gap there just seems to be too close, but once you've got the tension on the belt and you've got it underneath there, there is clearance. Yeah, I think that's great, but maybe that's why my belt was getting shredded as well, if that's the case. And then up here, keeping it tight, again move that wheel to the right, to then tighten the belt around here. Belt comes round down to the tensioner and then tensioned it up. So I've got my socket on. I don't know what's happened now with the video, but let's just try rotating the engine. Oh, it moves for a start. That's a start. Let's lock it. Right, I'm going to try and do this with two hands. Right, back onto the Discovery. So updates on this. I'll show you just a sec what I've done with the engine so far. Pulleys are alright. My tummy hurt so much. Went for a curry last night, and for some reason hot wings in a curry house are hotter than you'd expect. Very nice though. But right, inside the engine. So we can see now I've got the cover back on again. I'm not 100% sure how that bracket goes on. There's two bolts there, and there's another one which goes through here, which I think is probably too long. So I need to figure that bracket out, but it isn't important to this rebuild. And what in terms of the pulleys and everything that we get sorted at the end. I've got, let's move that out of the way. I've got the fan pulley in place, new, that moves, but it looks like an adjuster. I'm not 100% sure how to tension it yet, but that looks like it could be an idea. There's the new water pump gone on behind here, which is just 3 bolts, holding it to the engine, and a seal inside it, and then 3 bolts holding the pulley on top. Not changed any of those. That wheel's got to go back on there, and that new tensioner's on, which I don't think adjusts, it moves. I think it's an adjuster, and then you've got the alternator as well, which, yeah, that, I think I might need to get an alternator at some point, because that doesn't sound very healthy either. Be good enough for now, I would hope. So all I need to be doing now is getting this belt back on and then rebuilding it all. Thanks again to YouTube for obviously you seeing me doing bits of this. I don't want to record it, because as soon as I start recording something that I'm not 100% familiar with, I make mistakes. So I've got my YouTube here to keep an eye on things. Battery's been put on charge as well overnight, just to make sure I've got full juice, because hopefully today is the day I'll start it and go from either being a hero saving lots of money, getting this belt done, or a zero because I'll blow the engine up. Let's see. Well, it was a tight old fit, that's for sure. yeah, I've got a short breaker bar there. I even put the extension on from the trolley jack, and I had that fully over as far as that tension would go to the left to get that on. And I'm making sure that the belt was where it's got gaps, or not gaps, but where it's got little guides on either side of things to make sure they're tight. That I wasn't sure about the torque on that one, but that was obviously replaced as well, so that I just didn't want to tighten any more than it was. I found 3 more bolts, which is good, so I've got 1 here and then 2 up in there. I can't remember what that was for, but it was obviously for something, and I left it in there, and I thought it went back in there, but that's where it came from when I was playing, so that must be there. Yeah, so I think now it's just a case of reassembling all of the bits on the outside that hold all the coolant and everything else, and then give it a test. So soon. So now I'm at pooping my pants time. With Matt Armstrong, I think he says quite regularly, when he gets to the end and there's no bolts left, you know you've done well. I have got left that one. I've got that long one, which came out from almost where the timing belt cover is. I couldn't really find a way or some use for that bolt. That's now on the floor as well. That bracket, which I don't know, it looks, actually I'm just putting it on now, it looks similar to going around the EGR, that kind of size, but it's a bracket, nothing seems to be that untoward. And I've got another little bolt which was also into the timing belt cover, but it'll obviously be holding something in place. It's not holding the cover on, it's holding something like a bracket, which is, yeah, I don't think it's any big issue. So now I'll spin it around to the engine. So in the engine I've got, let's put them 3 out of the way. I've also got an empty coffee cup, which is not great. I've got, that's tightened back on, that's nice and tight, the plug's back on. What else got? That one, I snapped it off, not worried, I can cable tie that when I'm finished. That's all back on. The fan's back on. I wasn't able to tighten that as much as I wanted to because I didn't have the spanner to hold the bracket, so I could have used my magic tool to do it. But then the other thing is it's reverse thread anyway, so as it spins it should tighten itself. Well, it's tight. Obviously if it needs to be tighter it should tighten itself. This is all back on. The air intake's back on. So I'm walking through now to check myself, make sure I've not left anything else in here. I can't see, I've got a bit of tissue. I've got an empty coolant bottle, so I'm going to put some coolant in that before I try and start it. And that's it. So I've got no tools left behind. And if anybody else sees anything untoward, then shout at me. I'm more than welcome to receive any criticism for what I might have forgotten. But I think a bit of water, I might put coolant in now, but if it leaks obviously then I've got a bit more of a problem, but let's wait and see what happens. Right then, I think it's time. I've got some coolant in. It's taken about 3.5, maybe 4 litres in. The good news is there's none on the floor. I think I'm just going to go for it. First things first, key is in, and I'm kind of expecting, oh, I don't have a lot of fuel, like not a lot of fuel, and it's also telling me I've not got a lot of coolant, so maybe that's a code that will clear itself once I start the engine. Right, driver's door is open, yep, that is true. So, oh dear, let's turn it off again and go again. I'm absolutely bricking myself here. Right, on.
Power on.
Glow plugs on. Low fuel.
Power on.
patch is brake cleaner that I sprayed on to clean the wheel. I think it's done. It sounds like a Discovery. On that note, I'm going to do the coolant bleeding process as per, and then I'm done. I'm still shocked, but yeah, get on with it. Right, so the last part now, the bleeding process on the coolant is now up to temperature. And it all seems to be okay from the coolant side of things. I do have a noise I'm not happy about, and I'll get closer and see if I can hear it. But it is up to temperature. It sounds, the engine sounds sweet as. There's no extra patches under there beyond what was there, so it must be all watertight, must be all sealed. But from this side of the engine, I don't know if I pick it up or not. Gone now, I've got the camera out, funnily enough, but there's like a click noise. It sounds like it's coming straight from that alternator, and when I put it on, it did feel quite grindy. So I'm not sure whether to run it and see if the rest of the engine feels fine, and then if the alternator eats itself, then I'm going to get a new alternator anyway, or whether I can test the alternator in any other way, because I think it's just that's making a bit of noise. Anyone got any thoughts? Let me know. Okay, so now you've watched it. I'm hoping that you will have enjoyed what I've done. With the shirt, I work in an office. I enjoy cars. I've always enjoyed cars. I've always loved playing with cars, but this was me having an attempt at a project that's probably the most difficult and challenging projects I've done. I've now driven it around for a couple of days, and it sounds as good as, not as good as, it's a diesel, but it sounds as it did before I did the work. So when you're doing timing stuff, that's probably the biggest compliment to it, is that it sounds just the same. If anything, it feels to pull a bit stronger, a bit smoother. I don't know whether that's just me making it up as I'm going along or not. There are still squeaks, there are still noises, there are still rattles. I'm sure the car will break down at some point and there'll be things that go wrong on it, but I'm fairly confident now that it's not due to the timing. It was a big job to do that. It's probably one of the biggest jobs I've done. One of the biggest jobs I've done, but I also found it quite straightforward in terms of if you just follow the process and step by step it and do the things that you can see on YouTube, then it's worth taking on. But if it's your first project or you're not that confident, avoid it. Go and practice on something else. Like the Fiesta over there, I'm going to do a timing belt on that one, and the Punto here, I've done a timing belt on that, and that was a lot easier. This isn't one I'd recommend starting and practicing doing some mechanical work on. I do want to thank Outback Discovery. I've watched some of your videos and you give me the confidence to go and do some stuff, so thank you. And also Christian and Vera over in Germany with your LR time. Some of the videos you put on there, the contents from some of these videos, there are other people out there as well that show me what to do, what not to do, but those two in particular, I really understand what you're saying when you're doing the repairs on these cars, and it makes me feel confident to go and take all the job on myself. If I hadn't watched your videos, I won't be doing this one, and hopefully my video gives someone else the confidence to go and have a crack themselves. But for now, it's done.